The Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, kinda power. I love the power. I love the power.
Hi guys, Macca19 here, and you are listening to the Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast, a show about all things Port Adelaide Footy Club. As always, we got Fishing Rick here as co-host. How are you, buddy?
Woohoo, Macca! I got the squeaky chair back.
Woohoo! How about Butch?
And the butcher, what a goal.
Unbelievable.
No butchering on the weekend. I thought he was fantastic.
He was brilliant. And look, joining us for the first time is CaptnHeffo.
G'day guys, how you going?
Good, buddy. Good to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Too easy. Well, look, first things first, we'll just get your history with Port Adelaide, mate, and how you became a Port supporter.
Yeah, well, as a kid, fairly young, Dad used to take us to Alberton to see the Maggies play. Used to sneak me in at the Bowls Club. I don't know if he had a deal with the bloke at the door, but snuck me way in there and got in free pretty more often than not, I thought. But yeah, used to run around with the kids there and have a couple of kicks, and from there, my mum used to. Oh, she's still a massive Port supporter as well. So it's been through the family for a fair few years. My uncle actually played in the SANFL reserves as a youngster, so
nice.
A little bit of history there, and yeah, just carried it on and sort of found my own group of friends, and it's just been really great.
Fantastic. Do you remember your first game?
No, I couldn't tell you my first game. I was probably in a nappy, to be honest with you. I reckon I remember old Archie. I remember him running around with little Steedy, and that was sort of my recollection of the era that I went to the game. So a few years ago, but I'm only young myself.
That's it. And what about your favourite player?
Favourite player? It does change every year, as you know, but probably at the moment I have to say TJ, Tommy Jonas.
The glove.
Cool.
I love it.
Good hard choice.
That is a good choice.
That's it.
Well, let's get straight into it and talk about the NAB 3 game, which of course was against the Adelaide Crows at our old hunting ground, Amy Stadium. It wasn't really a happy result, I guess. A 24-point loss. We were losing by as much as 50 points during that last quarter. Butch was the star up forward with 5 goals, and also 2 apiece to Robbie Gray, Jay Schultz and Aaron Young as well. Hef, do you want to give us a quick rundown of the match, mate?
Yeah, so went back to Amy, as you all know. It was probably good for the people that went there to finally say see you later at that place. I'm a little bit jealous. I wasn't actually there, but I was listening into 5AA and heard old mate Rowie and the likes of Timmy Ginniver. So
wonderful.
Got plenty of the match, but yeah, it was right hit out. It's good to see the sort of the main group get together a bit more and give it a real good crack. You did see it at certain times last year's sort of gameplay come in, and they were trying out a few things, but I'm sceptical as to whether they were really going with the game plan that Kenny has. It was very over possessed around the stoppages and whatnot, and I'm not sure whether that was just to get our confidence in with the game plan that we do try and sort of push, which is heavy traffic and handballs and run and gun, but yeah, it was. You can't take too much from it. I don't think it was. Yeah, I mean, they were probably trying a few different things. They were sort of pushing everyone forward of their 50, and Tex was sort of owning that area, and they'd flood sort of our defensive every time we had a ball go in there. They sort of read that we were going straight for Butcher, it seemed, and no one else. I don't think Schultz really wanted to get in his way early on, but later on he sort of jumped in and said, all right, this is how it's done, lad, so move aside, and he really showed us that he's probably hasn't really come off too many paces from last year, old Jay, but yeah, it was good to see a few good signs, which was Robbie Gray back to his best. He's reading the ball there in the centre, and the subsequent plays, he really knows where it's going, and he knows where everyone is. Bokey and Ebert played great game. All the big stars, our leaders, they
all played well.
Well, yeah, it was Boak and Gray that really stood out to me, and it was. I mean, Gray was a bit sloppy at times.
Yep.
I mean, Wines was a bit sloppy at times. There's a few times that he was probably he would have squared it up if it was round one, but he went for the big kick along the boundary line, 50 out sort of thing. You know, when maybe there was a couple of options in the square, but yeah, Pollock. I thought that Pollock he sort of started a bit slow. I'd written down in my notes that he started a bit. He sounded a bit slow. He sounded like he wasn't quite there, but then sort of getting home and watching the vision, he really picked it up in probably the last 3 quarters.
Yeah.
He really took it on, and he was back to what we saw last year from him. So he hasn't really come off the pace. Looks like he could probably even get a bit more pace into him. And Dan Homch down back, I thought that he was the general back there and played quite a good game with intercept marks and whatnot.
Yep. Rick, what do you think, mate? Is there something to worry about here with another loss?
Macca, it was a dark and stormy night. The storm was approaching. Look, not really. I thought it was a bit of ducks and drakes by our part. I posted up quickly on the forums as well. I thought the Crows played pretty well, but I don't think we were showing our hand at all. I thought the Crows did well to create their zone from their kick-ins, and they really pigeonholed us into the pockets quite quickly. But unlike last year, where we were very keen on doing the switch and transition, we just relied on a lot of down the ground, straight direct kicking play. And I saw Rucci asked Hinkley that question as well post game, and it was played with a straight bat. So look, I don't know about you guys. I'll get you guys to answer this one, and I guess in a second as well. But to be honest, I don't really see Westhoff playing too much in the centre circle. Same with Schultz. It seemed to me like they were really keen to isolate Butcher and really give him a fair crack with a strong side. So, look, I would have preferred a win. I was expecting us to win. We still pumped in 63, I think, inside 50s, 18 more than the Crows, which really surprised me. So we had that 11-point run where we missed some absolute dead set sitters, which really killed us. And, in the end, it was the 3 super goals that was the difference. So, direct and accurate kicking for goal won out at the end of the day, which always does. So, we lamented that third quarter. So, to answer your question, no.
Yeah, look, I thought we played pretty well. I thought for 3 quarters there we played some pretty good footy and, probably outmatched the Crows there. It was only that sort of 20-25 minute period in the third quarter where we just looked absolutely abysmal. But, I mean, we didn't really do anything to try and stop the Crows' run. We kind of let them control the game for that sort of 20-25 minutes there. But, look, for the other 3 quarters, I thought we were actually pretty good. We controlled the play well throughout the match at other times. I thought our centre clearance work was fantastic. I mean, just the work by Gray, Wines and Boak was unbelievable in the centre square. I also loved our ability to get numbers around every contest to win the bowl. We created a lot of great overlap, even though we probably didn't use that effectively. And I thought probably our forward setup was worked not too bad. A little bit different with Butcher up there, and as you said, we kind of isolated him a little bit, but I thought we played pretty well. And once again, it was just the goal kicking. It's a bit of a bugbear of mine. I'm just not sure we've improved in that area, and I think that's something that we really did need to improve on.
Absolutely. I guess I know Russell Ebert's hot on this, and I'll edit it to useless bloody handball.
Yep.
But I think... and I'd like to hear your opinion, Reece, on this, but there was a lot of loopy handballs in congested situations, which really just set the receiver up, and it was just a waste. I'd rather see... I know you can't do the old, kick it down the line without getting chastised, but, I mean, if you've got a choice about doing an 8-metre loopy handball to someone who's going to get nailed or kicking it long down the line along the boundary line, I think I know which answer I would rather take in that situation.
Yeah, I did note a lot of the time, early on especially, that we probably sold ourselves into a bit of trouble. Kane did it maybe once or twice, but I thought as the game went on, sort of the leaders sort of could see the difference and the change that we needed to make, and maybe it's a bit of the fitness thing. Maybe we should be a couple of paces ahead of where we're normally at, and maybe instead of handballing it to a stand and start, the players need to be on the move a little bit more. But as I said, knowing it's just a pre-season game, that sort of stuff all sort of gets ironed out as you strap on the boots and the first siren goes for the Subiaco game. But back to the Westhoff and Schultz in the middle. I thought that maybe Westhoff, you may see him in there a little bit during the year when we have Paddy Ryder back in the side. But Schultz, I think that maybe they had tested a couple of bigger bodies in there just to sort of counteract the loss of another big body that we were missing in Hamish Hartlett. I think our midfield was probably a little bit small, bit light on maybe without another big body there with a few smaller players and more inability to play a little bit more than others. Yeah.
Are we being a little bit too clever though? I mean, I don't know. Do we? Unless he's going up for ruck, do we really need a 200 centimetre guy trying to rove the ball off the ground? Is it just really maybe slowing our reaction time down? I didn't see any influence from him in the centre square. I think I'd rather maybe see him potentially running off a wing to try and then use his height to his advantage in running off his man, or just taking advantage of the height differential against his man running forward or back. I just don't see how being a ruck rover is going to be a massive advantage for us at this point in time.
Well, it's a good point of difference, I think. Did it work on the weekend? No, probably not. I don't think Westhoff had all that good a game, but it's a good point of difference. We've seen key position players have success in the middle of the ground before, guys like Pavlich, Chad Corns, to a lesser extent maybe John O'Brien as well. Maybe it'll be something that might work when the season starts. We can throw Westhoff as a rover, for 10, 15 minutes and see if he can win the ball. I mean, we know how good he can be around the ground. It might just be that special point of difference that we have, which some other teams don't have.
But wouldn't you want more of the bigger, bulky frame in there, sort of player to try and split the packs, create the clearance? Is that really his type of play? I'm not too sure it is. I mean, I think we might be better served by putting Matthew Broadbent into the centre instead of Justin Westhoff, if that's the case. I think he's got a bigger body and can create that impact, or Tom Jonas. They're probably two options. I'd prefer to try and play that role over Westhoff.
Yeah, I think Broady in the middle wasn't too bad at times, but I felt like his initial step, he wasn't quite quick enough for the midfield. He's used to playing a little bit further back, and there's some bigger bodies around that are quite slow in comparison to him. So I thought that he probably needs to be a split second quicker. But I see what you're saying. I mean, we've always loved the idea of Justin roaming around a little bit more, but yeah, I can definitely see he can be thrown in there as a sort of just a point of difference, like Macca said, just to throw him off a bit. How they're going to set up for that. They're going to have not much time to sort of set up and tell each other where they want to be. So yeah, it could work as just a throw-in sort of thing.
I guess the Crows did well in that sort of aspect of the game. They were able to bring the ball to ground substantially, especially in that third quarter, which sort of nullifies the effect of Justin, I guess, with his mobility a little bit there too. But I think the third quarter is probably the issue for us to talk about quite a bit, boys. Was that an issue where we, again, let a team get a run on? And is it just the goal kicking was the problem, or was there more problems than that in the third quarter?
I'm not sure you can read heaps into it. I don't think it was just the goal kicking. I don't think it was an issue of allowing a team to get a run on. I mean, we just didn't try anything to stop it. That was the noticeable thing. The Crows are playing quite direct, and we just didn't try anything to try and counteract that at all. We didn't throw more players back. We didn't do anything at all, really. So we kind of let them control the play in that quarter. So I'm not too concerned about that. My main concern to do with that is probably the form of our small defenders. I don't think any of them at the moment have really commanded a position in the side, except for maybe Jasper in the first two games. But look, they were all pretty disappointing on the weekend.
Yeah, I agree with the Pito was a bit quiet again. But I can see the good in German Impey. I see where he's trying to be at, and his attack on the ball is just 100%. Like he'll jump over a pack just to get to his man, or he does lack that knowledge of whether to leave his man and go off and be the second man in to sort of affect the play. But he's got good signs, and I don't want to write him off like everyone wanted to really write off Jasper Pittard, and then we sort of missed out on a bit of a diamond in the rough because he does have the potential. But no, look, I mean, this weekend's game was a little bit lacklustre from him. I mean, he played on one of the best small forwards in bets for a lot of the game, and he towed him up. Really, he just has the footy smarts that the Jarman couldn't run with.
The thing about Impey is, I think he's almost there. You can tell he's almost there. He gets a really good position. I think his mind's just going that one step too far ahead. He needs to just bring it back a little bit and concentrate on what he's doing on the moment. I think there was quite a few times where he gets his hand on the ball, but he fumbles or he overruns the ball. I don't know. I think he just needs to take a little step back, have a think about what he's doing in the moment, and get those little things right. If he can get those little things right, he's going to be an absolute super player.
Eddie Betts is a good player too, though, as Captain pointed out. So, and I think he struggled with Eddie Betts a little bit last year too. So, look, I mean, we're still not flushed with the resources there, and I can't remember, how did Paul Stewart go? Did he play on Betts in the last quarter? I mean, he's my
Not
pick
really.
probably.
No.
He's probably my pick to probably start in the 22 for round one. Macca, I know we've got something coming up about that, but I've been really impressed with him, and he's probably given me the most conviction out of all those sort of smaller lockdown players. That he's the one to go to at this point in time.
Yeah, I think O'Shea's on a knife edge. I think he's pushing his luck a little bit. He hasn't had a very good pre-season. He's got Cracker breathing down his neck as well. Is Impey good enough to play in round one? That's probably 50-50 as well. It's quite possible we might see Stewart and Cracker in the side instead of those two.
Yeah, look, it could be possible. Well, Cracker's the interesting one. I was surprised that they kept him out of this game.
Well, maybe he's not in their plans for round one. Maybe he's had his couple of games in the pre-season, and they'll just concentrate on getting him right for the Magpies.
Well, that's what I thought, but then wouldn't you play him in the Magpies game?
True.
That's so.
Yeah, not sure.
Sort of, they've tricked me there. They're tricky buggers, these coaches. You don't know what they're up to. Plus, I saw Frampton's on the website 3 to 6 weeks. Is that long enough to be long-term injured and promote a player?
Well, he's already on the long-term injury list, so all we've got to do is promote a
Is he?
player.
Yeah, he's already on there.
Okay, so they've already chucked him on there. Fine.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, I guess they'd probably play that out this week, I guess, if they're going to promote somebody.
Yeah, with the Cracker call, I'm not his biggest fan, but I do see the need for him. I just really want us to persevere with these younger sort of guys. Before, I mean, if we were lacking, if Impey was really having a poor game, or someone else that he was going to take the position of was really lacking, and we had injuries and no other backup, I mean, yeah, fantastic. Let's give him a go. But yeah, I'm not too sure as to whether what they're going to do there. I don't really want to make the call because it's going to be a bit of a strange one. What happens with young Cracker or old Cracker?
Well, let's talk about someone that surprised us all and had a ripper game. Johnny Butcher, 5 goals won, including probably the goal of the year already. What a performance! I honestly can't remember seeing him play that well at any level in the last 2 years.
No, someone pointed out the Melbourne game probably is his last one, and that'd be right. And I guess it just shows having a solid pre-season, what a difference it can make to a person's confidence. He showed signs against West Coast, and as I said last week, I don't think we could judge him after the Richmond trial game being in such a depleted squad. And he did really well. I mean, I thought I made a pretty harsh comment on him after the game, where I thought there was a couple efforts where I thought he could have maybe gone two-handed, and he sort of went one-handed and tried to protect himself. And, with his injuries, I can understand why he would have done that, but that would be the only minor criticism you could have. I thought, he took some clunker marks again. He was leading well, and he was kicking for goal accurately. And who cares if his style isn't textbook, as long as it works? I think that's the most important part.
Yeah. I think in terms of positioning and also leading and reading the play, that's the best I've ever seen him play in those aspects.
Yeah, I agree. He was dominating big packs, and he was able to bring down those marks that even at SANFL level, you go and watch him, and he sometimes struggles with just finishing off and just holding on to the ball. He gets first hand to it, but sometimes just doesn't have either the balance or the position or what to bring it in. But his hands, you just watch him, and he brings down those big clunker marks, and you just see the potential in him again, and he yo-yos so much as well. Everyone's 1 minute he's got nothing, he's never going to make it. And he plays a game like this and everyone's, Johnny Butcher, round one, chuck him in the pocket.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if Ryder's unavailable, which I guess there's a possibility that will happen, do we play Johnny Butcher in round one?
Have to.
I would say yes.
Yeah, you play him. Well, who comes out of the side?
Whoever it takes, whoever's in the worst form. If you ask me that question very harshly, I could probably point out Matthew White. I think he's very underperforming at this point in time, and I think he might have picked up an injury. And White adds great value to our side. So I don't say it loosely, but I just think with the form that he's shown, and I know he's not a prolific ball winner, but he's really lacked influence this pre-season. He'd probably be one on the chopping block.
Yeah, look, I'd definitely play Butcher in round one if Ryder's unavailable. I don't think he'll get a go if Ryder is fit to play or is able to play. I don't know. I want to see more of Johnny Butcher. As I keep saying, I just want to see more of this from him. I think it was a great game. It's something that we haven't seen too often, but we just want to see more of this. Keep going, Butch.
I don't think you can drop him after a game like that. It's all about the confidence, and Hinkley's always backed him in wherever he can. So he's definitely not going to sort of kick him out the side now after a game like that. So you can put your money on it that he's definitely going to be in round one, knowing Ken Hinkley.
Absolutely. And I can't see why we can't have a team of Schultz, Westhoff and Butcher if we can have a team of Schultz, Westhoff and Ryder. So, but I mean, his position would be under threat, obviously, once we know what's going on with Ryder, because at this point in time, Ryder's still a bit of a stronger player. And then we've got a tough question, Macca, when they're both available, what do we do? But it will be interesting. I think, what was it, 63 entries, I said, if we can rack up that against Freo and play a conventional forward line, rotating properly between Schultz, Westhoff and Butcher, I think, and have Wingard back in that forward in 50 as well, we're going to have a lot more impetus in our goal shooting, I'd imagine.
Aaron Young, he's the next player I want to talk about. Has he jumped ahead of some of those other guys like Andrew Moore and Matty White to get one of those final spots in the side? He's had a ripping pre-season. Yeah,
look, over Moore, I think that it's just going to yo-yo all season. Unless one of them really pulls their finger out and wants to show some good consistency. Young's really set himself up with this game to get himself in the round one squad. I mean, Moore wasn't really able to give much of a rebuttal. But I would say that Young is definitely ahead of Moore at this stage, and I hope that he does get picked for round one. I hope he plays the same sort of game with the same attack that he played last weekend, and keeps himself in there, because he can be a good player.
Yeah, I'd be playing Young. I think his influence has been outstanding, and he's been showing it for a while, and he really brought it to the fore this pre-season. So why wouldn't you reward his performance?
I agree. At this point in time, I think Youngie starts round one.
And I think it could be at the expense of potentially Andrew Moore, who again is going to maybe miss out at the start due to injury, which isn't a good thing.
No, disappointing.
So what about, guys, one thing I thought was a little bit concerning was the fact that I thought Taylor Walker was leading Alapate a merry dance for a fair chunk of that game.
Well, yeah, I just didn't think they cared too much about the result. It seemed like the Crows were just able to run it from one end of the ground to the other with absolute ease, and we didn't really try and stop that. So I can't really read anything into how the key defenders played at all.
I think we had O'Shea playing a little bit too tall at certain times of the game. He come off, and you could visibly see that he was a bit upset with his game and maybe the decision to bring him off. And I felt that he was a bit out of position at times. He can play that taller sort of role in the reserve sort of SANFL level, but I I'm not quite sure that he's got the frame to really battle against a Jenkins or a Lynch specifically, which a couple of the players I think that he ran sort of on and off of on the weekend. But yeah, I think the Crows sort of knew that maybe Bobby was going to go straight to Tex with the limited stocks we had, and I think that they played the game plan that sort of fell in their lap there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still, even if collectively they weren't switched on, I think a lot of the team sort of were just going through the trial blues, sort of trying to get through to round one. You'd still think you'd want to have a bit of pride in being your man, and I just thought Alapati got sucked up the ground too often, too easily, and then ran back on and exposed. So I guess there's a bit of work there, and it doesn't matter how old you are, you can always improve.
I didn't think Walker had that great a game. He didn't have a lot of the ball. He kicked a couple of memorable goals, but that was about it, really.
Yeah, well, it sort of stood out to me at the game. I mean, I was in a state of pain after doing 2 go-kart races in a row with my kids, and my body was starting to fall apart on me, so maybe the drugs were sort of influencing what I saw. But I just thought he was more influential than that at the ground.
I think when he did have the ball, he embarrassed Bobby a little bit at times. And then also when Bobby wasn't on him, there was one time where he mauled 3 of our players and got the ball off, and I think they ended up doing all right from it. So it just stood out a bit more than I think it probably should have.
Is the omission of Trengove a myth, a mystery, or is it fact that we do struggle when Jackson's not in the side?
It is fact we do struggle when he's not in the side, but I don't think it's due to the fact that Trengove's not there. I think, as I said on the Crow podcast, if you look at the games that we played last year and the games that we lost when he wasn't in the side, a lot of that was due to the forward line's inability to kick straight, rather than our defence's inability to keep the opponents to a winnable score. I mean, you think of the Essendon game, the Collingwood game. I mean, they didn't really kick a lot of goals. It's just that we couldn't match them. That was it.
And I guess that's probably part of the disappointment from last week carried on to this week. Last week I was disappointed at our lack of potency in affecting the scoreboard, and this week I was probably a little bit disappointed that the Crows easily impacted the scoreboard and scored a higher score than what I would have preferred. So that's something to take away. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you still don't like losses, so you much prefer wins, and I guess the boys would have been told that today, and they'll be working on it for a week and a half's time. Only a week and a half.
I mean, we touched on it a little bit before. Is the goal kicking a problem?
Well, it has to be.
They were shots that we just should have kicked. I mean, 20 metres out straight in front, Jakey Need, Ollie Wines, these guys should be nailing those goals.
Yeah, they were sitters. For professional footballers, they were sitters, and they should have nailed those goals. There's no excuses for that. And you know what? If they nailed those goals, we might have ended up being 10 points down or something, because the Crows probably deserved a win with their third quarter effort. But we weren't very efficient in front of goals, and I think that is a concern for the coaching staff.
Yeah, no, I think that the likes of Pollock missing 30, 35, 40 metres out directly in front is inexcusable. Brad Ebert is a bit... he does it at times, and it sort of sticks out a little bit, his inability to finish off. But I think that maybe you can excuse it for the pre-season. But yeah, I'm not too sure that it's of course a great concern at this stage. I think that we'll tighten the screws up sort of next couple of weeks and really get our game back to where we should have it.
Cheer the black and the white, honour the Magpies day and by night, live that loyal...
Look, let's have a quick chat about the SANFL trial. It was another showdown at Alberton Oval, Port versus Adelaide, and it was another loss as well. Adelaide winning by 30 points. Similar story, it was a big third quarter which saw Adelaide pull away and bring up a match-winning lead. Luke Wilson, who's back from Norwood, kicked 3 goals, whilst Keanu Miller also kicked 2 as well. The Magpies have struggled a little bit as well in their first couple of pre-season games. Is that a cause for concern as well?
They've been very depleted.
Yeah.
I'll beat you, Reece.
No, you said what I was going to say, mate. The quality that they've had to bring in compared to the sort of guys that are going to come back in round one, you can't really compare them too much. Look at the best players. You've got two blokes in there that most had never really heard too much of. Miller and Miller, you've probably heard a little bit of from the website, but. No, look, there are a few players coming back there, and they're really not going to be able to set up until round two when they can actually play a game together, knowing what the team's going to be like. They haven't really played with the team that they probably will go out in round two with since the grand final, and even that's going to change a little bit.
Yeah. Jared Redden played another good game. He was a bit of a monster in the ruck. Is he a possibility for round one against Freo?
I don't think so, Macca. I think Butcher's probably put that to bed now. I think they would have been vying for that spot. That's what I put up last week, and I guess putting him back to the Maggies sort of probably answer that question. And let's face it, he's probably doesn't have nowhere near the match fitness to do it yet, and it'd probably be a bit unfair chucking him in the deep end so quickly as well.
I think it's more,
yeah,
do we want another key forward, or do we want that second genuine ruck option?
Well, I like him as both. I think he's a natural forward in a way. He reads the play really well. And that's one of your criticisms of the Butch at times, that he runs under the ball. You don't really see that with Redden. He can get to the ball, and he is a nice kick for goal. But obviously his ruck work's fantastic as well. So, if we can get 40% game time in the forward line from Redden and 30% in the ruck and 30% on the bench, I think he could be quite an influential player.
What do you reckon, Heff?
I think round one he's probably a little bit too tall to chuck in the side at this stage. I mean, you'd obviously give it to Butcher, but you couldn't have them both sort of playing in the same squad. I mean, you're looking at Freo's team and they seem a bit depleted with their tools at the moment. So I'm not too sure how we'd go with going a little bit too tall with some of the smaller players of Fremantle running them rings around their ankles.
Darcy Byrne-Jones had a bit of an indifferent game against Richmond the week before, but it was good to see him put in an almost best-on-ground performance down back.
Well, it's good to see. He's been probably a bit of a slow burner this season. I guess everyone's been talking about him and not really talking about Byrne-Jones. So I guess he didn't really influence much in the first trial game, so it was good to see that he picked up some ball.
Yeah, it's good to see him back doing some good stuff. If you went out and saw any of the games last year, you'd know that there's something there with Byrne-Jones. He can his attack on the ball is quite good, and his runs down the wing were something to sort of admire, I think. But yeah, he's another project sort of player. He's obviously a fair way back in the pecking order, and he's probably got a little bit more work to do than most to really catch the eye of selectors.
Yeah, hopefully. I guess the Arch kicked a goal, but sounded like he lacked a little bit of output again. So it's a bit disappointing for Brendan. Hopefully he can pick it up as the season continues on.
Well, as we said, it's make or break for Brendan Archie this year. If he can't become that sort of player, then it's really hard to see him getting another contract, I would think.
Absolutely.
No, yeah, it is make or break, and you really want him to do good. I mean, you can see why we picked him so long ago, and it's been a bit unfortunate with his progression so far. But yeah, I mean, he's got a good size to him, and you want players like that to really come out of their shell.
It's all right. I'll give him a pep talk. So the players
that'll work.
Yeah, he'll listen to. We'll go. Who's that old guy again? Who are you? What are you doing talking to me, weirdo? Get away.
That's it. Well, look, round one, we've touched on it a bit throughout the podcast, but do we think we'll see any surprises to the team?
Yes.
Do you think we might see someone like Kane Mitchell surprise and get a go?
Well, is that a surprise? He's been upgraded to the senior list.
Oh, he's probably not in most people's top 22 or 25.
Not mine, but depends who's available, isn't it? If you got a Ryder, Montfrey's Wingard's not up, Hartlett's still injured, well then you'll probably take him.
Mm.
He does play a similar role to White, though. You can only really see one of them getting in, to be honest.
Yeah, if we had to roll the dice with one, I think White's probably a little bit more penetrating and influential than what Kane Mitchell is. He seems to be a bit more of a fast workhorse, but doesn't seem to get as much done compared to Matt White. But I still like my bolter's Paul Stewart. I'm still big fancy on him getting into the round one side, which is a big call for me, Macca, because I've been pretty critical on Paul Stewart.
Yeah, I didn't have him near my side at the start of the year, but he hasn't really put a foot wrong this pre-season, so I think he's certainly put his name amongst the minds of the selectors, so we'll see how he goes. I think at this point, if it's a choice between Stewart and O'Shea, you'd probably pick Stewart.
Yeah, I think they're both going to play that roll down back, sort of half tall, but you still want them to take the game on and have the ability to sort of push through and really have some leadership back there. But I had Stewart in my emergencies at this stage, but I wouldn't be surprised if I saw him in there. But depending who's sort of coming out for him, because I don't have O'Shea in there either.
Well, let's if we have a look at our journalistic extraordinaire Macca, who had his best 22 on the Port Adelaide website during the week, created much discussion. Macca, well done.
That's right. And Paul Stewart's sister had a big go at me because I didn't name him in the side, so...
Good on her, so she should have. Well, we could pretty much take Angus Humphreys and Paddy Ryder out because they're not going to be there. So we can insert Johnny Butcher and probably Jake Need into those spots. Aaron Young will take over Andrew Moores, and you could almost go Paul Stewart will take over Matt White from that side, I reckon. That's what I would do anyway.
Yep. I still had White on the wing there. Oh, not on the wing. I had him in the on the interchange over Stewart. I had O'Shea from last weekend's side. I just had Stewart, Cleary, Sam Gray, Mitchell, and O'Shea missing out, and in comes Wingard, Trengove, and Hammer, obviously.
If Ballantyne plays in round one, do we start Impey?
I say yes.
Or does he miss out?
I say yes. I say give him a crack at Ballantyne again. I mean, he got his. You don't really want to bring up the past too much, but he's proved that he can play a good standard of football against Ballantyne, and even if Ballantyne doesn't get up, there's Walters as well, who's I'm not too sure how far away he is, but you want that small defender there to be on those players to really shut them down.
I'd give it a go. You got to back him in. I thought his start to the year last year was fantastic, and I don't know, maybe I see something different than what everyone else sees. Maybe I'm special, Macca, because I don't think Jarman Impey's been horrendous. And the same with Jake Need. I think Jake Need's been quite good. I'm really enjoying both of especially Need, their contested work around the pack. I mean, he's definitely improved his evasive skills and is able to get the ball out. He might panic and not use it properly, but at least he's been able to do that. And the same for Jarman. He's providing us run, and that's one thing we want, isn't it? Run, and he provides it. So I love watching Jarman run out the half-back line with the ball.
Jakey Need's been a lot stronger this year, which has been good to see in my point of view. Again, it's just that sort of final 5%. I think he's kicked 0 goals, 5 for the pre-season. And a lot of the shots he's had have been quite nailable. If he had have nailed those shots, he'd be an absolute definite starter in round one, I think.
He'd also be on Baywatch, wouldn't he? Sorry, couldn't help myself.
Baywatch?
I promised I'd stop cracking jokes, but I can't help it. Yeah, nailable. E.g. Pamela Anderson. Anyway.
Your mind thinks on a different level, Rick.
Man, you guys just leave me to hang out to dry every bloody week. I tell you, and I keep coming back for more.
You do.
You guys suck. It's not my humour, it's you guys.
Debatable.
I do think that Jake Needy, he was able to play a good portion of all 4 quarters, I thought. And someone mentioned it in one of the threads that he creates so much unpredictability, and I think that's just an X factor that you need in the side. You look at the likes of Cyril and Eddie Betts, and you just don't know what they're going to do. They're here 1 minute, and the next minute they're behind you, and they got the ball and they're dishing it off to a running player who's kicking a goal, and you don't know where Whereas his ability to shimmy a tackle, with 3 or 4 blokes trying to catch him, and he just slips out and gives the hands away, and his skills are they're there. His skills are there with his entries to a leading up forward. So if the little aspects of his game that aren't quite there yet, once they get there, he's just going to be such a great player, and you got to have faith in him and keep him in. I do wonder what they will do with last year he didn't quite play the full season. I don't know what they're going to do this year to sort of counteract that, whether they're going to rest him for a number of weeks and put him in to affect the game when we really need later on in the season, or what. So a few questions.
We saw how good he played in those 2 finals last year. He was absolutely magic against Richmond and Freo as well. So I don't know. I'd like to see him get more of a go earlier in the year and see what he can do.
Is it a concern, as the media is purporting, Hinkley's confidence in playing Wingard, Hartlett, Trengove all in the round 1 side?
I don't know. I mean, do you want to play so many questionable players in terms of fitness? I'm not sure you do.
Well,
I think maybe 1 or 2 might miss out.
I think Jackson would be all right to play because, from the couple of trainings I've been to, he's doing a lot of running work. So I think he's been able to keep his fitness up. It will just be about touch. And, the Maggies have got a game next week. So, potentially might be able to get a bit of a touch through the Maggies next week. Chad, I think, is one of those freak players that you could almost get away with it. And Hamish is the interesting one. Me personally, I'd love him in the side, but I'd almost maybe give him the rest of flying over to Perth and give him that extra week to recover.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you would actually play him in the seconds, though. He's probably a bit too good for that.
Because of his injury issues, you definitely rest him an extra week, I would think.
Yeah. And I think you can't cover him, but you can cover him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's a unique player, but we've got some good players that should be able to fill his spot temporarily. So, yeah, that's probably the way I would go. Sit out Hartlett, give him till week 2. Obviously, I don't know his injury situation, and I reckon we could get away with Jackson and Chad for 1 run, especially Chad because he's just a freak.
Do you think we've prepared well enough for the huge start to the season that we have?
There's only so much you can do to really prepare for it. We've got to go in with the same sort of attitude that we've always gone into the start of a season, and just have that confidence and that belief that we can overrun anyone. And definitely, I think that it's absolutely, yeah.
I just think it's a bit of a concern where we're sort of coasting. And that mentality sometimes with the wrong team, and I'm not saying we are the wrong team, but sometimes, that if you keep that mentality going, you're expecting the switch to be flicked, and it doesn't get flicked and you get caught out. A bit of Port 2008, I think that sort of happened then. We just kept anticipating, waiting for the boys to flick that switch after 2007, and it never happened. But... Yeah. So to me, that's a bit of a concern, but it's hard to read. I mean, we played well against West Coast, who apparently don't look that good. Richmond, there's nothing you could take out of that game. And then the other day, I think we were just playing silly buggers. So pretty cliche, obvious statement I'm going to make here, but round 1 will tell it all, I'd imagine.
I think you're right, Rick.
And it's not about if we win or lose, because it's a tough trip, no matter if they've got injuries or not. But it's just a matter of how we play, And if we're tight and in the game, we're back in it. If they, if we just go walkabouts for a quarter and a half, we're going to get beaten, and that's going to be the concern for me because we didn't really do that at all last year.
Yep. Nice. Well, I think we might leave it there for this week. Heffo, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Too easy.
I want my money back, Heffo. You didn't laugh at my one and only joke, so give it back.
It was horrendous, Rick. It was horrendous.
It was not that bad. It was pretty funny. I was chuckling. That's all that matters. As long
You're
as
a
I
banana.
find it funny.
All right, boys. Until next time.
Go
Port Adelaide.
Adelaide.
Gray was brave, running hard, Moore getting forward. One last chance. Boat brilliant. Wines. Monfrey's centering ball. Cassisi. Willard. You know who again.
It is his birthday.
Kid's a freak.